What's up, fishing addicts out there? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're brand new to our channel, be sure you tap that subscribe button down below. You're gonna find all sorts of fishing content, how-tos on how to fish different fisheries, and you're also gonna find a lot of entertaining stuff. So if you love fishing, make sure you tap that subscribe button, turn on those bell notifications. And now that we got that out of the way, today we're gonna be talking about the 360 flasher fishery.
Yes.
We're gonna go in depth, exactly how to fish the whole thing, exactly how to rig it, start to finish. We got Eric Swanson from Eric Swanson Outdoors. Let's do that right now. So first off, as you guys know, we filmed a couple other videos out here today talking more in depth on the actual flashers and what you put behind the flashers. So we're gonna put links to those in the description below. So make sure when you're done watching these videos, if you haven't seen those, you drop down below and check those out. So let's dive right in here, Eric.
Yes.
First off, let's start with rod and reel.
All right, guys, so using these 360 flashers, it's super important to be able to see what your flasher's doing, and you want to know if you need to slow up or speed up, slow down, things like that. So using the proper rod is absolutely crucial to be successful in this fishery. We love our Okuma Guide Select Classics. I love the 10-6, 15 to 30s. It's a long, soft enough rod to where when this 360 is pulsing down underneath the water, you can, decide if you need to speed up or slow down to get that 1/1000 beat, the heartbeat of the rod.
Exactly, and I know a lot of people are gonna ask what the model is, so it's the 1062H. 1062H. I highly recommend you go check these things out. They have limited lifetime warranties and they do over-the-counter replacements.
They are
and
awesome.
How many have you broken in the years you've been using them?
Probably 4 or 5.
Yeah, so I've broken 2 over the years and it's been so nice because you just walk right into the freaking store, they hand you a new top and it's just game.
Yeah, so the only time I've ever broke these rods is when clients do stupid stuff like fish on, lay them down, step on them. Literally, I always go to Bob's, bring it to Bob's, they give you a brand new one over the counter. So the warranty is phenomenal, the action is phenomenal for this fishery. What's also really important, guys, is to pair the rod with a good reel. And I love these Okuma Low Pro line counter, the cold waters. They have super good drag. They've lasted a ton of time. I've ran this set for 3 years now and I haven't had a single malfunction. So these cold water Low Pros are absolutely amazing. The big power handle on them is great. And also the line counter, because 99% of the time in this 360 fishery, we're fishing them suspended. So having the line counter is super important to get your rods in the zone where the fish are.
And addicts, you just heard it from the horse's mouth. I don't know how you get a better review of a product than from Eric right there. Yes, we are partnered with Okuma. We say it all the time. We do love Okuma, but at the end of the day, we love them because of exactly what Eric just said. 3 years of not one malfunction on these reels for someone who's out here fishing 10 times more than the average person. So we highly recommend them. Also, they came out with the SS this year, which is just a step up, even better than what these ones were. Not to say these weren't already good, but they just did, all stainless steel drags.
Right.
Just made everything just a little bit more
beefed
top-notch.
up the beefy. Yeah, definitely added some nice features to them. So
that's the last little sale pitch we'll give on those reels and rods, but I just want to make sure you guys know that we really do love them and it's get some.
Absolutely. So as long as, the rod, the reel, the line is super important, probably one of the more important parts of this whole system. So we love to run a braided line, and what braided line does is it has 0 stretch. So when you're out there, 40 to 60 feet on your line counters, that 0 stretch braid, you know exactly what your 360 is doing. And also the braid is such a thin diameter that when you're trolling, you can use a little bit less lead because, a thicker mono catches current because it's thicker. So the braid being thin creates a less drag in the water and has 0 stretch, which is exactly what you want for this 360 fish.
So what do you like? So I use a 65-pound P line. What do you use?
I like to run the 50-pound P line. I ran 65 for a long time, and I figured if I could run 65, maybe I could run 50. And since I switched to 50, I've had great success with it. So just personal preference, anywhere from 30 to 65 is probably great. But I always run the 50-pound P line. What is the XTCB? XTCB braid. It's awesome. So definitely a braided line is super important, guys. So I like to run the 50 pounds.
Killer. So now let's talk about the business. What do you got after you got your rod, your reel, and your line, and the people are rigged up? What do they got to do from there?
So what you guys want to do, and this is how I run it. So I have an 8mm bead right in front of my VIP line lock, and what this allows me to do is have my clients reel everything to the tip of the rod, and that bumper bead stops right at the end of the rod, so you don't reel everything through the guide and potentially crack your first eye.
Yeah,
so I like to run
it'll
a
mess
bead
that up if you do that.
big time. So I run a bead on there just to strictly protect the top guide on my rod. And then I run the VIP line lock. What's super slick about this, guys, is it doesn't allow the 360 flasher to twist your main line. So what it does is it locks that first little eye of your bead chain right into place, so when this thing is whipping around,
your braid isn't spinning.
Absolutely, because that's a big problem with these 360s, guys, is if you don't use some sort of lock. I know Short Bus has like the rudders work really well too, but you want to use something that does not allow the braid to twist, because what you'll notice is when I first started fishing these, you can physically see your braid knotting up.
Literally, and then the only way you can get it out is if you like free spool it behind your boat, and it just like...
And this braid's expensive. I mean, it's 20 bucks to fill up a reel with braid, so you don't want to keep doing that, you know, every couple months. So running some sort of lock system to, you know, keep that line from getting twisted is super, super important, because what it'll do is when it gets twisted up, it also makes it weak. And once you have a big, you know, weak line,
and you lose a 40-pound Chinook.
And then you lose a $15 flasher and, you know, a $6 spinner, and it gets frustrating. So, yeah.
These line locks, I'm just gonna give my little spiel on them. We're not partnered with Pro. Awesome guy, he makes some cool tackle. Make sure you guys tell him that Addicts sent you to his website, and all you guys head over there and buy some of these line locks, because I started using them last year as well. It's one of those things you're like, damn it, why didn't I think of that?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just so perfect how it works. He's got just a little notch here, and what happens is, as it comes down, that notch fits your bead chain perfectly and just stops it from spinning up the line. Yes. And then he's added the duo snap in there. It just makes it easier to clip your lead on.
Yes, it's what it does is it makes everything simple. Simpler the better, because trust me, we overthink everything. So having something simple that we don't have to overthink is super important.
Check these things out. I promise you will not regret it.
You will not regret it whatsoever. So going down from the line lock, guys, I have a Brad 6-speed bead chain just to help keep the flasher from knotting up. And then I have my 20-inch bumper down to another 6-speed bead chain, to a large dual lock snap, to my Short Bus 360 Super Series, just like so. And when I'm running these Superbaits, I like to run a 36-inch leader, just like that.
Okay, so again, Eric kind of went through that fast, guys, so we're gonna start from the top again. Basically what he's got at the top, off his line lock, is a 6-bead chain to a duo snap, and he's using one of the 200-pound bumpers again to prevent tangles. You can get these at Short Bus. They're called the Short Bus Stiffy, so make sure you guys check those out. Then he's got another bead chain. Again, you can't have too many of these things.
Everything's down there. Everything is spinning. You're trolling these things fast. More bead chains, the better, because trust me, these things will spin up super tight too. So more bead chains, the better.
Exactly. So down to another bead chain, to your duo snap, clipped onto your flasher. Make sure when you clip these things on that your fins are facing towards your bait. Don't clip them on upside down. Make sure that those fins are facing down towards the bait. So then you have another duo snap to another bead chain. You see how we got the trend going? Yep. To, how long is this again?
This is 36 inches of 40-pound P-line moss green.
36 inches down to your super bait. And we're gonna put a link in the description below. You can see exactly how Eric rigs these super baits. Check that link out below after you're done watching this video.
Absolutely.
All right, Eric, so now that we got this whole monstrosity of gear out here, how are we gonna fish this thing? Well, let's show people, let's run it through, show them what the angle needs to be, what kind of lead they're using. Let's run through the whole freaking fishery.
So one thing you guys need to remember is when we're running these 360s, you have to troll them at the right speed, and you also have to match that with the right amount of lead. So these things take a lot to get them kicking. So what you want to do is you want to use the proper ounce of lead that's going to allow it to work properly. And I'm a huge fan of 12s, 14s, and 16-ounce weights. And what that does is when you snap it onto your line lock here.
What's that one you're putting on?
This is a 16. 16 is probably my favorite. So just remember here, guys, when everything is down here doing the big rotation, it also wants to kick your lead around too. So I've watched this in the water multiple times and kind of dialed up my fishery. When this is spinning, it's causing a counterbalance in the weight. So if you use like an 8 or a 10-ounce weight, this thing whipping around will make your weight be doing the same thing. So having a good solid base for this to work off of is super important. I always run 16s on my bow, 14s in my middle, and then 12s off the back. And I don't really like to use anything less than 12, because as this thing's whipping around, that thing will be rocking back and forth, and it kind of gives it a funky presentation. So having a good base for your 360 to rotate off of is important to give everything the right presentation to the fish. Alrighty guys, so the next step in the process here is putting it in the water correctly. So as we troll forward, we always want to put the spinner or the super bait in the water first, followed by the flasher, followed by the lead, and that allows everything to go out there nicely. If you put the weight in, and then the 360, and then the super bait, it goes in backwards, and you can have a tangle. So by putting the super bait or the spinner in first, allows everything to go out nicely. And one thing I always encourage everyone to do is before they send it down,
show them real quick though, Sean, just show them the flasher kind of moving. As you guys can see what that thing's doing, it's whipping. And not only is your flasher whipping around in circles, your super bait's spinning, and then your flasher is whipping that super bait kind of around in an erratic motion.
Yep.
Just dead.
So this whole 360, what it does is it's triggering these fish's natural instinct to grab something that's getting away from them. And it's probably hard to see here because the water's a little stained, but once a rotation, that 360 is kicking the super bait or the spinner about 6 or 8 inches. So as that fish is following the super bait, it sees it dart away from him, just like teasing a cat with a ball and string or a laser pointer. It's trying to get away from them. So that's what's triggering these fish to go and grab it, and I think that's why it makes it so effective. So once you guys have everything in the water, you always want to reel up and make sure everything looks right. Make sure the spinner or super bait didn't get wrapped around the lead. Just take a quick look. It's kind of a peace of mind so you know everything is fishing. And then what I always encourage everyone to do is let line out slow. Just do one pull at a time. You start free spooling everything to the bottom, it can get wrapped up. So doing one pull at a time, guys, is super important, just so you know everything is working. And so we're in about 30 feet of water. So I'm gonna send this to about 35 on the line counter, get it somewhat close to the bottom. Then I'll put it in my rod holder. And what we're looking for, guys, is going back to using the proper rod. You can see the 1/1000 heartbeat of the rod. If you have a super stiff rod, you're not gonna be able to see that. So by having the proper rod, you can adjust your speed to allowing that 360 to do its thumping motion. And then also throughout the day, guys, you can change up your speed. You can go a little faster, a little slower. If you see some fish on your fish finder, you can adjust your speed to try and trigger a reaction bite out of these fish. But I would say, your 1/1000 thump is exactly what you guys want to do to start out with, to ensure that you're fishing properly the first time, and then you can adjust as needed. Alrighty guys, another really crucial piece of this is having your rod angle at the right angle. You don't want your rod tip way up in the air, because what that does is that just allows your line to catch and drag more. And also vice versa, that you don't want your rod tip in the water. You want your rod angle about what you see there. You want your rod tip about 6 to 10 inches, or maybe a foot off the water, and that allows you to see what your 360 is doing, but not having it so far up in the air that your line's catching more water, as you can see it kind of pulling through. So rod angle is super important. I would definitely recommend these Fulbies. You can get the adjustment disc and adjust it however needed. But don't have your rod straight up in the air. Don't have the rod tip down in the water, because if it's in the water, you're not gonna be able to see the thump. You won't know what speed to go. So keep your rods, about 6 to 10 inches out of the water. Seems to be really, really perfect. So
now that we're moved to this rod, and Sean, as you can see on this one, you can get a real good visual representation of what your thump needs to look like from this side angle.
Yes.
You can see that 1/1000, 2/1000, 3/1000, 4/1000, 5/1000, just a perfect thump as Eric, and he's always gonna try to keep his speed at that. And the other thing that you can watch and you can look for, and Eric can talk a little bit more about this, is the line angle. You always want to watch your bow rod especially, and be watching that line angle, because if you start seeing that thing flare out too much, you're probably not fishing correctly, right Eric?
Absolutely. You don't want your gear skipping on top of the surface. So what I'm looking for is at least a 45-degree angle, and sometimes even steeper. So you want to watch your line angle in combination to that rod, the heartbeat of the rod. Combination of that, everything is down there working correctly. So line angle, thumping of the rod, adjusting your speed, kind of throughout the day, guys. Here in the lower river, we have tides. So we have an incoming tide and outgoing tide. So sometimes, I always get asked, what speed do you troll these at, okay? All right, guys, so speed is not important. Line angle and thumping of the rod is exactly what you're looking for. So don't worry about it.
It's always
how fast you troll these. Well, it's not necessarily a speed. It's a combination of line angle and rod action. And so don't worry about your speed over ground. Worry about line angle and the action you're getting from your rod.
And what, you know, Eric was talking too as well about how he likes to stick with the 16, 14s, and 12s.
Yep.
I have noticed some days out here, guys, if you have big tides, especially big outgoings, you will have to bump that up. There's been a few times where I've had to use 20s on the bows because your line angle just gets too flared out there and you're not fishing where you need to be fishing, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, on these outgoing tides, guys, sometimes these fish will be, you know, 5 to 6 feet off the bottom. And when you're in 40, 50 feet of water going, you know, 3.5, 4 miles an hour, you have to use larger weight to get down to where those fish are going to be at. So just remember, don't just stick to one size of lead. Just kind of remember, if you're trying to fish deeper, you might have to use a little bit heavier, but kind of change it up throughout the day. And the more days you guys spend out here doing this, you'll start picking up on the little things like that. So definitely changing weights depending on tides is very important.
It's huge. So moving along here, we talked about a little bit about the Superbait as we deployed that one, but another popular way to fish these, and we'll put a link down below so you guys can see more about this. We talked a lot about spinners in the last video. You guys will have a link down in the description. You guys can watch that after this, but cover it just real quick for these people.
Absolutely.
Talk about the spinners.
Yes, guys. So these spinners, you'll always want to make sure and use a small blade size. This is a 3.5 size. I recommend 3.5, no larger than a 4 size blade, because what'll happen is a bigger blade than that creates too much resistance, and what'll happen is it won't allow this 360 to do a 360. It'll kind of just do a nosedive, and it won't give the proper action that you need to catch fish. So 3.5, or 4 size spinner is perfect because it doesn't create a lot of drag and allows your 360 to do a 360.
And just like the Superbaits, the nice thing about it is now there's so many companies making the 3.5s. You can get every single freaking color you want on the planet. JT from Short Bus does all sorts of amazing colors, so we'll have a link down below to you guys check out those spinners as well.
Yes. So big thing, guys, is like we just said, make sure and use a small enough spinner, because, you know, I see it out here day in and day out where, you know, a boat will pull up alongside you and they, why aren't we catching fish? Why aren't we catching fish? Well, reel up your gear, let me see. And they'll be using like a 7.5 thumper blade or something behind it. And so just remember, guys, those bigger blades create a ton of resistance. So you want to use a small blade, allows your 360 to rotate properly. And
leader length, you know, he touched on it. You don't have a 4 or 5 foot leader length behind that 360 because the purpose of this thing is to whip that spinner around.
Yeah, so the whole purpose, guys, in running small leaders is your 360 is doing a 360, so you want your spinner to be close enough to it to allow the 360 to give it that 6 to 8 inch kick motion once a rotation to trigger that response, that you know, response to that salmon's going to be, you know, trying to get something that's getting away from them. So,
exactly.
Yes.
So there you have it, addicts. That's pretty much the full rundown of how you get out here and do this fishery. Hopefully this helps you get out and catch some more fish, which is what we're going to go try to do right now.
Right now. Salmon. Yes, we are.
Thank you again for tuning in. If you guys want to get out, we're going to put a link in the description down below to Eric Swanson Outdoors. He'll get you out here, hopefully teach you some more of this if you want, catch some salmon if you want to do that as well. Thanks again for tuning in. Tap that little subscribe button, turn on those bells. Lots more videos to come. We'll see you on the river.
See you guys on the water.